Hey there, and welcome back to Done on Purpose podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to provide you an encouraging word, an enriching perspective, and an empowering framework in each and every episode. For the most part, there's going to be some in here. It's not like a particular teaching episode, but that's what you'll find here. You'll also find strong, calm conversations, and that's where we have a conversation. I have a conversation with a friend of mine or a connection of mine, introduce them to you, and we have it within the frame. Here's a frame of communication, community building, and how that builds stronger company, whether that's the company that you're building or the company that you keep. This podcast used to be called Strong Calm Podcast, but I wanted to create a greater umbrella. And so that's the brief intro. Today's episode is really an episode about a podcast that I was recently on called The Story of Everyman by John Silos. He's the host of that podcast. It was an honor and a privilege to be his guest on that podcast. It's a local podcast here in Longview, Texas. He's also the admin of the largest Facebook group here in Longview. It's got more people in that Facebook group than the population of Longview, which is pretty astounding. But also East Texas is there's a lot of people around East Texas, and they might not all be Longview residents in there, but for the most part, lots of Longview are there. And so it was an excellent opportunity. I got to share. His podcast is extremely unique. I wanted to do this podcast as a way to introduce you to that platform, that podcast, but also give some of my thoughts on how it went. I've listened to the episode now that it's been edited and everything, and let me tell you, it was in a beautiful studio. Probably the best studio I've ever been inside of. I mean, 4K cameras, multiple 4K cameras, outstanding audio. It's absolutely gorgeous just to look at, not just by the footage, And so check it out on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, on Facebook. You can find it. And the podcast is really interesting because John takes a unique approach in the only way that he could. He really is the virtue of curiosity comes out with John because he's very curious. He asks a lot of interesting and deep questions. He also asks a lot of random kind of off-ball questions that keep it fun. It was really cool. It was a great experience, and I really appreciate him for allowing me the opportunity to speak with him. Because as a podcaster myself, and we talk about that a little bit in the episode, we talk about podcasting, my upbringing, we talk about my growing up in Edgewood, my work, ambitions, me being a creative, how I got to Longview, faith, creativity. Cover a lot of stuff, and as a podcaster, as a host, I don't really get asked a lot of questions, and so it was cool to be on the other side of the room, so to speak. And so if you don't really know a lot about me, this is a great way to learn a little bit more about who I am and where I come from on particular things. And so in this episode, I just wanted to, like I said, introduce you to that, point you to that, show him some love, show him some engagement, subscribe to his channel on YouTube, all the things. But also clarify a couple things since the episode has come out. There was not everything was kept, which is totally fine. He really did a great edit because it captured everything that we talked about, took out some of the fluff and stuff. But I wanted to clarify a couple things that I said that I could not change, but expand upon a little bit just to provide a little extra value on my podcast here. And so one of those is creativity. In the conversation, kind of early on, we're talking about podcasting and my experience with it. And he was talking about, man, there's sometimes where, I love to do the podcast. I love editing. I love the whole process. But there's times where it's tough to create instead of just consume, the doom scroll, and just waste away hours sometimes and not do what you actually want to do. And I can relate to that. I told him that, I do have a podcast, but it's not weekly. like it's not 52 episodes a year that I do the podcast, which I would love to, but there's times where it just doesn't happen. That happens to me. And I think that's just the nature of creativity in itself. Of course, consistency is a huge part of a successful podcast and any kind of content that you're putting out there, personal brand or whatever. If you're somebody that's just doing it for the love of it or for a business or whatnot. And it's so important to do, but but it can be difficult. I've struggled in this for a variety of years. And but we also all go through seasons. As a creative for myself, like I go through seasons where I really want to focus on writing and pushing out writing and working on my craft in that way. And so if you've been subscribed to poweracronym.com, that's my Substack platform, which used to be called Done on Purpose. I've done some branding changes and stuff like that over time, but you go to poweracronym.com, you can sign up for the newsletter. If you're receiving this through the Substack, I appreciate you for subscribing. It's just a way that I can stay connected to the people who are interested in me, and I appreciate your attention. I focus on writing, and so audio takes a little bit of a backseat, or video takes a little bit of a backseat, so I can focus on that one particular thing. Or earlier part of this year, I didn't really focus on podcasting too much. I started the year with podcasts, and then I was like, you know what, I need to focus more on content, video content, short form content, reels and stuff like that. So I focus on that. And so, which is fine. Nobody's begging me to do any of this. Nobody's hiring me to do this for myself, for example, for example. And so, I'm not beholden to anybody but myself. And so as long as I have peace within myself on whatever I'm doing, then that's okay. And that's kind of how I give myself an out. But at the same time, sometimes as a creative, you have to look at like, okay, well, what are the results that I'm looking to get, or what am I really up to, and what am I trying to grow? And so I've wrestled with that over the course of this year and many years in the past. And like as of now, it's really just it's creative expression. I share that in the episode of. Done on Purpose exists as a container and a platform for me to just get the word out that I have in my heart that I want to share. But also, I know I do this for a multitude of reasons. In the past, I've landed jobs because I have the skill set of podcasting or communication or marketing and sales. Like as I've grown in these skills and I've used them, I've applied them just to and share what I know in the way that I know how, through video or audio or written form. I've gotten new opportunities because of it. It's a living and breathing portfolio essentially. So people can just get to know who I am and what I'm capable of because I keep on doing it. And so that's why I do it. It's one reason why I do it. But the main reason that I do it is because I feel like it is a calling in a way, because I've always been a creative person and wanted to express myself in some form or fashion. And so as the skills have grown and my confidence has grown, of course, the volume of what I produce grows. And then as I think about things and I reflect on things and how I want to present things and what scratches my itch, so to speak, that's how and why the podcast and the work that I do has evolved over time. For example, I collected and curated acronyms for a long time because I was interested in them and I like frameworks. And then over time, I started to write my own, and the originals that I've created over time just added to that collection. And then I thought, well, it would be really interesting to just build this library of sorts that serve as enriching words, encouraging words, enriching perspectives, and empowering frameworks in a collection that people could enjoy and take value from. And that's how Power Acronym was born. And so it's a evolving thing. It's grown alongside me. And as I get more clarity on what I'm actually up to, it changes. And so anyway, he was like, what is it that that blocks me from doing that? I didn't answer the question in the episode because it didn't really feel like a direct question to me. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I could have answered that. And to me, when I answer that question, it's fear, that resistance that we experience. Anybody experiences. And it doesn't have to be content per se. It doesn't have to be writing or video or audio. It could be the resistance of doing whatever it is. Cleaning the house. I cleaned my truck out yesterday. Woo-hoo. First time in a long time. And it could be just that resistance. It's easier to consume than it is to create. And even if it's easy to do a thing like cleaning the truck, I've done that plenty of times, it's easy not to do it as well. And so it really all comes down to fear and resistance, and fear, especially when it comes to creative expression, because anytime that I upload something, that fear is in the back of my mind of like, what are people going to think? And what if they think this? And is this even valuable? Is this even good? Am I even good? And I touch on that as well, of like, that's been a struggle of mine in the past, and it's something that I wrestle with of like, am I good enough? Is this good enough? Is this even valuable? Do people even care? All of that stuff. But one thing that I'm trying to make real for me and get more comfortable with is that resistance, is that fear, and pushing past it. Pushing past that fear and doing it anyway. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who don't care, and there's a whole bunch of people that really do. There's a lot of people who do care, who do need these words. Even today, like if you scroll and you doom scroll, you can see so much strife and hate and pain and loneliness that's expressed from other people. And people need an encouraging word, an enriching perspective, an empowering framework so they can possibly get up and do what they are actually here to do, supposed to do, want to do, just can't seem to find the strength to do it. And so that's part of the reason why I do it, is because other people, I believe, need it. I know I need it. And that's why I surround myself with other creators. It's why I engage with people, and that's why I listen to podcasts. I watch videos, and I try to fill my mind with positivity, with frameworks, and with creation. God says that we are made in His image, and if God is creator, then we are creators, and we're called to have dominion over the world. Now, we're living in a fallen world, and there's tons of problems, and sin exists, and things like that. But rejoice, because God, Jesus, has overcome the world. And so that's another thing just in my faith journey, is as I continue just learning this and trying and reminding myself of the promises that God has for us. And this is, a documentation essentially anytime that I'm creating, and over time, looking back and thinking and also in real time experiencing what it is that God has for me. I don't exactly know what tomorrow will bring, but I'm going to show up with that expectancy that God, if I do your will, I'll be where you need me to be and how you need me to be. And so I just wanted to give you that as just kind of a clarification a little bit also, and just kind of what it made me think of, because I found that the less that I pay attention to that resistance and that fear, and the less that I pay attention to whatever's happening in the world and the opinions of the world. I mean, it could be just a random news story or what other people are creating, that comparison will keep me from creating, from doing something, when, that's really what I should be doing. I should be creating something into the world, and it might not be content for the internet. It might be just cleaning my room, doing the work that I'm here to do, serving people that I'm called to serve, whether that's in my own neighborhood or if it's at work or my team, whatever it is. So also, I wanted to talk about ambition. So he asked me, what's your ambition for your life and your career and that kind of thing. And so I gave an answer. It was just kind of like, well, I'm doing a lot of what I love to do now. And that's true. because I am doing a lot of the work that I love to do now. I love helping my neighbor with the skills that I've developed with Project One Roofing. If you're watching on video, you can see the shingle wall behind me. And I'm proud of the work that we do, and I do enjoy it. There's so much joy that you can have, and new friends that you can make just by helping somebody with a roof problem. And that's any industry that I find myself in. I find fulfillment out of doing that work. And so I told him on the podcast that, I just want to do more of what I do to a greater level. Like, what does that greater level look like, And that's not just a, sales metric or a vanity metric, a leadership metric, with me, it's like, well, what is it that power acronym needs to be for the world? What problems can I help people solve in that? And, I don't necessarily I think that the greater level as I look to myself, there's greater levels in roofing that I can reach, right? But I don't know if that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. It very well could be, but maybe not. One thing I do know, though, is that, and what I told him was, I will continue to create content and providing these encouraging words and enriching perspectives, empowering frameworks. That's what I want to do. I want to continue having intentional conversations with people. And so if I was to say it again, and I'll say it now, is like my grand ambition, like if I could snap my fingers and just say, this is what I do now, and I don't have to worry about money or whatever, or get paid to do, I would speak and write and coach. Those three things. That's what I would do. I would package it up and create a life where I could provide for my family and myself and others in that way. Provide value to where I can pay my bills and then some, and then also impact people in that way. That's really truly what's in my heart, that I believe that I can do, that I'm here to do, that I want to do. And so that's how I would answer that question a little bit more clearly. And I'm learning that on a regular basis. How can I become a better speaker, writer, coach? And as I continue to develop these skills, you're along with me if you're listening and reading and watching this far. And so I appreciate you. Appreciate your support. So there's that. Let's see. And that's all in the container of strong calm. Okay, so calm, if you don't know, is the root word for together or in common. And I use that as a springboard to talk about communication, community building, and how that leads to stronger company. And so, again, kind of a big tent type of brand to dial in on these specific disciplines. And what I believe builds strong company is that strong communication, whether that's online or offline, whether it's with yourself or with others. And then the community building is the values that bring us together, maybe the traditions or things that we do together. Like Longview, for example, is hot air ballooners paradise. Every year there's the Great Texas Balloon Race, and it's like a national race. People from all across the country bring their hot air balloons, and next weekend, as I record this, there's going to be balloons flying over Longview in the mornings, and it's an awesome event. And so those are the things that bring the community together, these events that bring people together, and their traditions, and there are things that the community do that align people in a particular type of way, and they're unique and creative and historical, and they're touchstones of yesterday and modernized and for today and enjoyed till this day. And each community has these things. So that's an example for like a geographic, but also community building in terms of how that does apply to business. Like I serve as president of the Kilgore BNI chapter, world's richest BNI. Shout out to y'all. And I also serve as launch director consultant for BNI Northeast Texas, where I help launch these chapters. And I love this work because I get to speak and write and coach others on developing the networking skills that I've developed over time and help people be successful in that environment like I've been able to do for myself, I've been able to impart that on others and help them grow their business in that way. And that's super fulfilling to me. And so this communication, community building, how that builds strong company, like that's really what I want to continue to do and continue to help people with. And so that's Strong Calm, a little bit of my ambition and what I'm up to. And so if you need any help with that, I would love to help you with that. And so that's really it. I just wanted to, again, thank John Silos, point you to the Story of Everyman podcast. Listen to mine, but listen to the others, especially if you're local to Longview or East Texas. You'll hear some stories that are powerful, that are emotional, that are inspiring, and they're your neighbor. Some of the people that I love the most. I mean, there's so much stuff that you can learn on the internet, right? You can learn from anybody though. And one thing that I love is the regular person. The person that you're most likely to meet, more likely to meet. You can pay attention and listen, like I do, to these, $100 million CEOs and these $1 billion founders and all this kind of stuff. There's unprecedented access now for all these top tier, big, successful people. But at the end of the day, to me, the most valuable are the people that you could possibly meet in person, shake their hand, actually have a conversation with, and actually do business with right next door to you. If you were just open your eyes and get out there and find them and connect with them, because you're more likely to be more successful connecting with them at the end of the day. And at the end of the day also, they're just regular people like you and I. And so Story of Everyman captures a lot of those stories here locally. And so it's cool to be a part of that experience. And it's also just another we align a lot in our pursuits, because in some ways Strong Calm Conversations are like that as well. It's just in a different container. And so because I'm a different host, he's a different host. And so like for example, Sean Ingram was a guest on my podcast and his, and he asked a ton of different questions that I didn't ask him, and so I got to know him a little bit more. So shout out to you. And so anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I'm going to put the links in this description for the YouTube and for the audio, so check that out. Subscribe to him, follow his stuff, follow my stuff. I'd appreciate it. And I've got Strong Calm Conversations on the way. I've got a few invites out, and we're working on scheduling and stuff, so you can expect those here soon. And so, yeah, today's the day to live on purpose. Get it done.